Okay, I've compiled all the best images, artifacts that I've found over the internet of giants for you to look at. One of them's out of order. I am not doing it again. It took an hour last night to sort all these images out and it ended up being in the wrong place for some reason, but there were a lot of images that came over the internet, and yes, most of them seem to be fake, but this one, for some reason, I've kept it. It's the only one that I've downloaded, and if any of those images to me were real, it would only be this one. I just find it very interesting, mainly for the fact that it's the skull. You know, this is not a human skull, it's more like a corn head. Strange eyes, its ribs are all caved in, something sticking out the side of it here. It's just strange. It looks like this is in India now. This could be photoshopped onto this skull, and that's the problem. Even with all the evidence for giants, you know, that's in museums, most of it could actually be fake, right? Which led me to go and find artifacts myself, right? Which had never been put forward before. This is Easter Island. It was one of the first videos that I made. It was the second video, actually. And this person here stood at the side of this and he's kneeling down. It would only come up to his shoulder, right? And his head would only be half the size of this head here. There's about, well, I know of about 3 different types of these types of beings, yeah, on this island. Easter Island it is. And these were actually real giants of some type of species from some time, right? And it's the same thing as what happened in Pompeii, and they've turned into ash. It's exactly the same thing, people. This creature, this thing was real and walking about at one time, which then, this is one of the old images, isn't it? Look, there's 2 images in here that aren't mine. Obviously the first one I just started off with, this one, right? And I've used an image from Mud Fossil, an artifact he found, but I have already come out and said that this artifact actually is real, right? Now there's not many images of this, right? It doesn't exist anymore. It's been smashed down, apparently. But if this image is real, and this artifact existed, then I'm saying absolutely that this was walking around. It's a giant. It's something like it's died in a pyroclastic flow. And that's what's happened to it, right? Then I got into the Aswan Quarry. At that time I said that all these were fingerprints. I now don't think that they are fingerprints. What this actually looks like to me, it actually looks like a shoe print, right? It actually looks like the imprint of a shoe. And this site was a fully geopolymer site because it's granite, like I've said. If there's any geopolymer going on, it's only with granite. And what's down here is actually fingerprints where they've been moulding this huge obelisk into shape, right? Because that's what they are. If you can't see that these are actually fingerprints and they've been squeezing it into shape, right? And now I know for a fact that I'm absolutely 100% right. Look, that is where a finger's been shoved into this geopolymer granite. You can actually see where, like it would have been the left hand, yeah? This is where the rest of the 3 knuckles would have come. And that's why it's dinted there, and it shoved its finger deep inside here. And now I know for a fact, and you can't dispute this image. If anybody wants to dispute what's going on here, right, look, this is obviously a finger. It's the greatest image that I've ever found, is this, right? Look at it. it's left its imprint in this granite. That's where it was scooping it out there. You know, this is obviously a stone that they're trying to tell you that the Egyptians were bashing this thing out, and okay. And that's where I've just had you down there. These, look at the shapes of these and how they point slightly towards the end. If you stick your finger in anything soft, it comes out in exactly this shape. You don't leave perfectly symmetrical fingerprints, right? This is where your nail is up here, and your skin squeezes into a point just like that. Those are fingerprints, guys. This site at Sacsayhuaman, this huge block here, you can see the imprint of a hand, and it is about the same size as the hand fingerprints I've just been showing you in Egypt. This is this same site, Sacsayhuaman wall, and that's what I think these are. You can see where it's bulging out there. All these will have just been concrete blocks, right? And it's got sand in it, and over time it just hardens more, that's all. They used to say that this was andesite, it's not, it's limestone. Right, they say, well, how would you get these, you know, blocks perfectly, you know, where you can't fit a human hair? Well, it's simple. You just put something like paper in between it, right, and then lay your blocks. So I could do that, but it's the scale of what we're talking about, isn't it? These are about the same size fingerprints. This wasn't living, yeah? This was created by a giant with hands like I've just shown you, and that's what they are. And you can see where it's been pulling up on this thing and forming this chin into shape. I said that is actually the right hand. You can see where that's the thumb. For some reason it grabbed hold of here, you know. Anyway, I put this forward as some type of handprint. It's very large. What got me looking at the Sphinx was actually this here, right? It just looks exactly the same as a skull, doesn't it? Right, so that's what got me looking at the Sphinx. Then it was the eyeball that kind of swayed me that this thing might have been real. Yeah, you can see where it's dried up there. But then when I saw the mouth and how the lip had been pulled out of shape, yeah, when this thing was wrapped with this thing that goes through its mouth, and these appear to be teeth, then I saw where the nose had been broke off, and you could see the nostril holes inside, right? Proved to me that this thing wasn't really a mud fossil or, you know, something petrified. It was just a large mummy, something similar to this. You can see where this has been wrapped. This white neck, if you could actually go find old images of the Sphinx, and the neck is actually white, or was white at one time, before they started pouring loads of concrete on it. I showed you this. This is a newly excavated site in Peru or Bolivia. And that's what it is, and that's clearly a jaw. Absolutely, just, you know, it's clearly a jaw. Okay, look at it. This central bit has been dropped here at some point to put you off. I'm not sure why. I said that this thing absolutely something similar to what happened at Pompeii. That's typical of a mud fossil, where the pupil is, you know, your pupil is actually a hole. Which then led me onto the heads in South America. You get the same thing there. These are no different to what I've been pointing out already. Most of these things were walking around people, right? They've just been turned to ash in paraplastic flows and mud fossils, but I mean, this guy is obviously real. It was mud fossil Roger Spur that got me looking at Stonehenge with the foot, but when I went and searched images on my own, I found this one. This is the one that swayed me, that this site is actually the remains, petrified bones, mud fossils of a massive creature, a giant, right? This here, right? This is the heel stone. This is actually Roger's image. Okay, the rest have been mine. And this is a foot, right? Now he says it's all a foot, right? I think this is actually a shoe. And these are the toes, and I'll show you what I mean on this next image. It shows you better. These are the toes here. They've snapped off there. This is the second of two images that aren't mine, and this is a kind of well-known image, and this is a footprint of a foot, no different to the one I've just shown you. This rock buildup has broken away, revealing this print inside, so the rest of the print is behind this rock here. I've just found this. I know it's small, but this is actually Stonehenge, and this thing, look, I don't know what it is, but I mean, it just basically looks like a petrified nose to me. I found this. I'll go back and show you again. This is obviously more a mud fossil. This thing, that's the front of it, and it looks like a hand. That's the back. This is where the marrow will have been. It is a true mud fossil. It's a hand, and it's massive, I can tell you. This just looks like a huge ball joint just lying around in the middle of a field. This is one of the best finds that I realised was actually something living at one time. These are where ball joints connected into this thing. This is a head of a humanoid. This was all wood, and it's now petrified. I'm not 100% sure if this was living at one time, or if this was all carved out of this wood and it's all become petrified. Not 100% sure. This thing just looks like a joint of pork, right? You can see where the flesh skin anchors into the muscle, because it doesn't go in a straight line, yeah, it anchors into the skin. You can see the bone here, but just look at the size of it. This stuff in Sardinia is just beyond the pale. This to me looks like part of the hip. You will see how big these pieces are. This is obviously a skull. That's part of where the ear is there. It's snapped away, but it's even got a cranial ridge there, look. Obviously the eye will have been in here somewhere. Not sure what part of the body that's from, but it's clearly from something enormous. This is in England. One of the first artifacts I found that got me looking into this stuff. That is from this place. So all these pieces are pieces like what I've just shown you. What that was, I've got no idea. I found this last week, and this is a, well, it was a mound, and it's clearly a mouth of a giant. This entire doorway is a mouth. These are teeth. These are teeth here that were either back here, or it had double rows and it's been moved. That's the back of the mouth. Yeah, and these are teeth here. That's the chin. This is one of the, you know, what they call burial tombs of a giant. All these pieces are mud fossils from this thing, right? This is about 80, 100 foot long this site is, yeah. And you can see the imprint. This thing is absolutely enormous. This image I found yesterday, the head is actually missing from here. I wish this image had the head in as well, but that's a top view of it. This thing that's on top of here, yeah, so this thing on top of here, you know, I suppose you could think that this was some type of technology, but I don't think it is. Some type of petrified technology. I'll show you why. This appears to be a bone again. It's hollow inside here, and this artifact is right there, right? And actually, when you look at this thing, especially this area here, look, I'm not saying this is what it is. I'm just telling you that all these pieces are from some of the biggest creatures that's ever lived on Earth. But when you look at this, it just looks like the jaw of a snake that's been bent back and doubled over. You see this that sticks out here? It's the same on the other side. That looks like part of the throat area here. That's just what it looks like to me. But inspect these images and look at all these rocks around here. And this is Machu Picchu. And I think all this site has been built around this. I think this is a creature. These lines here, you know, this is muscle fibre. That's what I think these are. You know, we're starting to get into the spectacular now, which is beyond things that I show. You know, it's more on the lines of what Roger's showing. But this, to me, when I found this, I mean, what does it look like? It just looks like the mouth, the throat. I mean, this might be the tongue here, and this is the throat. You know, that's the roof of the mouth there. That's probably what leads into its nostrils, but it just looks like the mouth of something enormous to me. I suppose you could argue that this looks like petrified wood, but you know, I know what happens to bones when you put it in the oven for a long time. It splinters and goes like this. So when people go on about this great densification, that may be an explanation. I mean, I think it can happen through natural processes myself, but this is not what mainstream science want you to believe, is it? Lava never forms like this, does it? I think it's flesh, you know. You know, why it's turned like this, I don't know, but I think that's why it's red, and it just looks like it's been bust open. I'll zoom in on this one for you. This is the last image, and if you look at these here, these are in the exact same shape as as fingerprints, yeah. There's actually 5 of them, and then there's a thumb, as if this was actually the left hand that did this, yeah. It looks like that's been thumped at some point, and this hand literally just ripped all these casing stones off here. That's what it looks like to me.